Do we have to do this today? It's late, I'm getting a cold, it's snowing, and the pub's open.
Just get on with it, you lazy git.
Fine. So this is the Walther Rotex RM8 Varmint air rifle. Now, Original Outdoors is still an outdoor training, skills and activity and consultancy business, but we have been filming this UK Airgun Basics video series over the last few months, and this is the rifle that we've been doing it with. So any piece of equipment that we've been using for that length of time and to that level deserves a review. So there probably won't be too many airgun reviews or rifle reviews on this channel, but that said, I'm going to do my very best to try and, well, make this the best review I can. So we've been using the Walther Rotex RM8 Varmint in 177 caliber, teamed up with a Richter optic scope. The Varmint variant builds on the existing RM8 platform, teaming it up with a pleasingly contoured thumbhole synthetic stock. The finish on this stock is to a high standard, and you can really tell that a lot of thought has gone into the design of this rifle. The filling port and gauge are under the forestock, and you get a 200cc buddy bottle style reservoir. A weaver rail is moulded into the forestock under the reservoir, and there is a subtle checkering everywhere your hands make contact with the rifle. A 1/2 inch UNF thread is cut into the barrel, ready for a moderator. The rifle is bolt action with a separate switch to retain the magazine. You get a single 8-shot metal magazine that uses a rubber strap to retain the pellets. The magazine loads from the left, you slide the pin forward to retain the magazine, and then it just rotates around with every cycle of the bolt. The safety is an inline mechanism that you have to pull back to manually set. To release a safety, you need to put pressure on the small catch within the button itself and then slide it forward. It's a fairly hefty rifle at around 950mm long and weighing about 3.8 kilos before adding a scope and moderator. So that's all marvellous, but you could have got that information from the brochure or the website of your local airgun dealer. It doesn't really tell you a lot about what you actually want to know about this rifle if you're watching this review, which is it well put together? Is it worth the money? Is it accurate? Can it shoot consistently? How many shots do I get from a reservoir? That kind of thing. What's it like in the real world? Well, to answer the first of those, it is put together pretty well. I've put about 1,500 pellets through this in the last few months with sorting out this Airgun Basics video series and just generally practicing it and rehearsals and days when the footage didn't work out but we still put the rounds through the rifle. It's solid, it's well put together, it's as well built as you would want a modern air rifle to be. I haven't really got anything to comment on how well it's put together. It's functional and it works well and it's solid. There are a few things that I'd like to change on it, or maybe that you do need to be aware of when you're buying this air rifle, but I'm going to cover those at the end. But next I want to talk about accuracy, because a solidly put together air rifle isn't any good if it's not accurate. So let's move down to the range and we'll go through, well, a bit of a grouping test and see what comes out.
It was very tempted, to shoot the GoPro. It's taking all of my reserve.
I filmed this grouping test actually about a month ago. I got together with a friend who also shot in 177, so we could pool our pellets and try to put as many different types and brands through this rifle as we could. We tried 10 different pellets through, shooting at 28 meters, trying to keep the conditions the same throughout the test. Anyone who's ever tried to do a grouping test on a rifle knows that you have to put quite a lot of lead down the range. So we did, and it took quite a while. And these are the results. We put 10 pellets from each type through the target at 28 metres. As expected, some were all over the place and some were fairly tight. We found that the RWS Superdomes were quite close, but it was actually the JSB Exacts, the 8.44 grain, were the tightest grouping for us. As you can see here, that's a fairly respectable grouping for 28 metres and a sub 12 foot-pound air rifle. And then when we put the chrono on it, we found that we were getting an average of about 773 feet per second, with a lower limit of 767 and an upper limit of 782, which is a respectable spread. And with that pellet, that comes out at 11.2 foot-pound, which is well within the safety margin for a UK sub 12 foot-pound air rifle. So that was on a calmer day a few weeks ago. Now this is the very end of January. It's a cold and windy day. You can come back and look up the conditions, find some historical weather site if you want to see, but I'm getting good 15 to 20 mile an hour gusts with a steady sort of 12 mile an hour wind coming from my 9 o'clock. I'm lying prone with a bipod, and in terms of my position and things, it's all pretty much ideal. But it's real world conditions, slightly damp, slightly windy, slightly unpredictable. That wind isn't steady. I've got these little orange flags out marking at 5 metre intervals, and some of them are dead straight and some of them are blowing out in different directions. So I've got variable conditions all the way down my 47 metres, I think I pace it out at, that I've got this target set out at. So this is real world conditions. I'm expecting to get a few flyers, particularly with this being 177 caliber and 8.44 grain rounds or pellets. So I suspect I might get a few walking off to the right slightly, but I should get a good 60% in that ragged hole close to the centre of the bull. So let's see how I go. I do quite like the bolt action on this rifle. You need to be positive with it, but it's not too bad, and it's maybe one in every, I don't know, 100 cycles of this rifle it hesitates slightly. I think that's more to do with the cog on the back of the magazine rather than any problem with the indexing of the rifle itself. I think sometimes because it's an open magazine, it's not in a little plastic case or anything like that, there is the possibility that bits of dirt and things can get in there, so it can sometimes not be quite as smooth as I'd like it to be, but generally speaking it's okay. So that's the first 8. Let's put another 8 through and then another 8 after that and see what we're left with. So, well, there we have it. So I'm going to bring this up as a still image in a moment to keep it clear, but as expected I've got a few flyers off there on the right hand side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe, and a general bias over to the right, but that grouping isn't bad. It's okay. The problem with these things is that eventually, unless you're shooting with a bench rest and everything locked down on a completely still day or with no air movement whatsoever, unless you have those perfect conditions and you're rifle after rifle with pellets that have been selected and you're putting hundreds of pellets through it, it just comes down to a test of, well, how well the person can shoot. And I'm only okay. But, yeah, 47 metres, that'll just about do for me. I would have liked a little bit more accuracy, but in weather conditions like these, that's not too bad. For comparison, this was a 30-metre grouping a little bit later on that day, and this is the 47-metre grouping with a few flyers off to the right as expected. So I mentioned at the top of the video that there's a few things I'd like to change about this rifle, or I think that you need to be aware of if you're you're adding this to your shortlist. First is the weight. It's not that light, really. The base model without the scope, without the moderator, which are items I've added on, it comes in at about 3.8 kilos, which for someone of my size it's about right, and it feels right, and it sort of mounts nicely and comes up where I want it to be. If you're used to shooting a lighter rifle, then you might find this to be a little bit heavy. I think it's the weight of the barrel, and there's some weight of the stock. There's quite a lot of stock here. It's quite a beefy reservoir. So I think if you want a really lightweight rifle, then you might want to look elsewhere. But if you don't mind a little bit of weight to it and you want something that feels fairly solid, then this probably should be on your shortlist. The pistol grip isn't for everybody. I've come to like it. It's grown on me a lot. I'm used to more of a thumb up style shooting, which isn't really that comfortable with this rifle. You've got this bar here above the pistol grip, but as a pistol grip thumb hole stock rifle, then it's there. And if you really want the thumb up grip, then you can go to one of the original Rotex RM8s with the beach stock that allows that kind of grip. There are a couple of things that I don't mind, but I know other people have commented on it, and it is worth addressing in this review, because this is a review, not an advert after all. The first is that the trigger material itself is a polymer. It's plastic, effectively. It's very, very solid, and apart from the actual tactility of it, the feel of the material, it functions perfectly otherwise. It's a two-stage trigger. You've got you've got the first pull, and then you've got about that much, and then it comes in. It is adjustable, but only insofar as where that point where it starts to come in, where it starts to actuate is. I find it's about right for me, but you want to make sure that if you are purchasing a rifle like this, or one of the Rotex RM8s, that you really do look at the trigger and decide if it actually is right for you. And I know people don't necessarily like a plastic safety as well, but remember, this is just an actuator for the mechanism that's in there. It's the same polymer, and I don't know what you'd be doing to your rifle that would actually put that at risk of being broken, but it's there. So plastic safety, plastic trigger, there are things to be aware of. If you're happy with that, then that's fine. The filling port under here, could be exposed. There is the risk of getting stuff into there, but I tend to treat my rifles quite well. I tend to treat them as if they are precision machinery parts, so I want to make sure that I'm not getting it covered in crap anyway, but it could happen, so be aware of that. I know you can get blanking plugs on eBay and other sites to fill that port, and it's not something that's unique to this rifle. You do see exposed filling ports on other rifles as well, so it's something that you need to be aware of, but it's not a deal breaker for me. There's something that it's more of a personal niggle of mine, and that's there's nowhere really to mount a sling. It's a true synthetic rifle. The butt here it's not quite hollow, but it's definitely lighter weight than the rest of the rifle, so there's nowhere here really where you could feel that you can confidently drill into to mount a sling swivel and mount something to the stock here. You could mount something on the weaver rail at the front, and one of those type of sling mounts, but then that does limit what you can actually put on the rest of the weaver rail there with bipods and torches and things. So I've not really found a sling solution other than tying it to the barrel and tying it to there with a shotgun type sling. That just doesn't sit well with me. Tying things to barrels it grates on me. It doesn't go well with the way I was brought up. So it doesn't. It's a problem. You could fix it. You could take off the butt and get inside here and find a thicker place, or reinforce it and do something with that, or just tie the back end on and, as I say, use a weaver rail mount for the sling. But it's not ideal. So that's something I would have liked to have seen. Something else, which is the magazine itself. It's a very well cast item. And I've not had any problems with the pellets themselves indexing from it. The pellets sit snugly in there, that rubber band holds them nice and securely. The only thing is that maybe 1 in every 100 cycles of the rifle, there's a slight hesitation. As you go back and forward, there's a slight hesitation, and I think it's because it's not indexing round as well as it could do. I think that's not a problem with the mechanism here of the rifle not doing the same thing every single time. I think it's actually those cogs, those small teeth on the back of the magazine. I think because you carry it in your pocket and you put it in pouches and it's completely exposed to all the usual dust and crap that ends up in your pockets, there are problems with indexing on that sometimes. So you've got to make sure that's clean. It's not a problem that's led to any misfeeds or any other problems with the pellets going into the barrel, into the breech. But like I said, every 1 in maybe 100 times, maybe 150 times, I'm finding that it just doesn't quite index as the other 99 times. So you go, oh, what's that? And then you just slow down, make sure it's feeding, put some pressure on in a different way, and it goes through. I know some people have had a problem with their bolts loose in the bolt carrier. It hasn't been a problem for me, but I know other people have had that issue. And just overall, in terms of accuracy and usability of this rifle, well, for the price you're paying, it's very accurate. We're shooting in fairly windy conditions today. I'm still not quite settled on whether it's the RWS Superdome or the JSB Exact is the right pellet for this rifle. We've been going with the JSB Exacts because we need to settle on something to do the review and to carry on with the series, but I think it's somewhere between the RWS Superdomes and the JSBs. And in 177, both of those are fairly light pellets. So in very windy conditions, it's not necessarily the rifle I would choose, but I haven't tried the 2.2, and I know other people who have tried the 2.2 that get on very well with it, and have the same level of accuracy, but without that crosswind issue that you get with a smaller caliber. So I don't know. I can only say what I've tested. At 30 meters, I would be confident of hitting the back of the pellet again and again in perfect conditions, and in slightly windy conditions, certainly within that 20mm grouping, and hitting that 5p piece every single time. At 45 meters, in the same wind conditions, I could be 60% confident in it, which if I was hunting, for me, I don't think I'd take that shot. But that's not something specific to the rifle necessarily, that's more about me and what my personal ethics are. It's not a HFT rifle, it's a good general all-round shooting, hunting thing. It's not a super accurate target drilling machine, but I don't think for that price that you're expecting it to be. So it is accurate, it is very accurate, and in the best conditions it is very accurate. Surprisingly accurate for the price. In real world, slightly windy, slightly less than ideal conditions, you want to be aware of the limitations of the rifle, but I don't think that's necessarily specific to this. I think that's true of everything. So that's about it. It's a very reasonably priced European PCP with English styling. It's accurate enough for the task. It's very reliable, it's very well built, and the synthetic stock, the true synthetic stock for the Varmint, is an improvement, I think, over the previous RM8 version. So if you liked the RM8 and you want to go for a genuine synthetic stock and a change in the styling, then I would recommend going for this. So thanks for watching. We're not a big gun or shooting channel, we're mostly an outdoor skills training company. I work as an outdoor instructor up here in North Wales and I run a huge range of courses, and all the videos that we put together are from that world, or we support that world. So anything we do with guns and shooting is generally in support of the work I do as a foraging guide, as a foraging instructor, and teaching people about wild food and finding wild food in the UK and eating wild. So that's where sort of the use of the air guns has come from, and we've got the UK Airgun Basics series which is rolling out at this moment. So if you enjoyed this video, if you want to see more of what we do, then please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and we've got more stuff coming out every month. But if you just wanted to watch this video and you want to move on to the next one, well, that's fine too. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the comments below and I'll try and answer them as best I can. But for now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time.